As Luffy and his crew would now continue their journey in the East Blue, it soon became apparent that the group were not as good at taking care of their ships as they thought they would be. The ship they had been riding on, the one they had managed to steal from Alvida, it was in a lot worse for wear than they originally thought. All of the fighting, the hasty retreats, it was definitely taking its toll. Before long, they would eventually land on another island, where there was a town known as Syrup Village. The ship was on its last legs. Of course, Volko could tell by this that they were going to have to find new means of transportation. If they tried to continue with this thing, they weren't going to get very far, and out of everyone on the crew, only he and Luffy were really adept for swimming and surviving in the sea long term. It was second nature for them with their Atlantean DNA. As such, it was the reason why Volko wasn't really all that fond of using ships. Not that he had never rowed on any, or not that he wasn't capable. It was simply just that when you're an Atlantean, traveling through sea is a lot quicker and honestly a lot easier. All the same though, their arrival would be met with a strange encounter, as they met another young man with a long nose and who carried with him a slingshot, as well as 3 little children behind him. The young man referred to himself as Usopp, and that he was the captain of the Usopp Pirates. However, it soon became clear to everyone that the boy told tales as long as his nose. He was a pathological liar, to say the least, or someone who was fond of the more tall of tales. Yes, this was Usopp. Usopp the liar, as he was known. The type of person who was, well, the very embodiment of the story of the boy who cried wolf. The villagers no longer cared for his antics, no matter what he said or did. Sure, the first few times they had to take him seriously, but as time passed and things went on, Usopp's reputation only went further and further into the mud. It didn't help matters that Usopp was the son of a pirate who was part of a notorious crew, one that Luffy and Usopp would learn had connections. It would be by chance during a conversation where Usopp would bring up his father being a part of a famed crew known as the Red-Haired Pirates, led by Captain Shanks. This immediately caught both Luffy and Volko's attention, as Luffy knew who Shanks was. This would surprise everyone, as this was really the first time they were getting to hear more about Luffy's backstory. But Luffy could confirm he lived in Fuchsia Village that was visited often by Shanks and his band of pirates, and among them was Usopp's father, Yasopp. For Usopp, it only filled him with more awe and aspiration for Luffy, as this was someone who had met his father firsthand and who knew him pretty well. Of course, it did lead them to wonder if Usopp held any resentment, as they had learned more about Usopp's backstory and past, but Usopp would remark that he didn't hate his father. His father simply loved the sea and wanted to be an adventurer. It was the life he chose. In the end, it was the only thing that they could truly accept, and that was just the way of life. Although, as they spoke, Usopp would suddenly leave, having had somewhere that he needed to be at that point in time. The others wondered what he could be up to, although the younger members of Usopp's gang would tell them exactly where he was going. Up on the hill there sat a mansion, where a young girl would sit outside on the leal of her window. There, a branch connecting to a tree, where Usopp would meet with the young girl, her name being Kaya. She had been sickly for a while now and never left the house, being watched after her 2 butlers, Mary and Calidore. Mary was an older fellow, his hair like that of a sheep, already in snowy white and fluffy of sorts, while Calidor had his hair slicked back, black, and wore proper glasses. Usopp would visit her every day, telling her stories. Of course, many would say they were nothing more but lies, tall tales, but for Kaya, it kept her spirits up in her darkest of moments. And for Usopp to see her smile, it meant the world to him. Of course, her caretakers were not too fond of Usopp, especially Calidor, who, this time when catching him, would not take too kindly to his presence. He would always remark that Usopp's father was nothing more but a filthy pirate, and that Usopp was a perpetual liar with nothing going for him. Of course, it spurred Usopp into anger, causing him to lunge forward and punch Calidor in the face, repeatedly. However, it didn't stop the insults from coming. "It doesn't matter how many times you hit me. It doesn't change the truth. Your father was a no-good, filthy pirate who left his dying wife and young son for his own selfish gains and pleasures. The fact that you can even stick up for a man like that shows just how truly lost of a youth you really are. And, well, at least for your father's sake, at least he's gained some wealth and notoriety from it. What have you accomplished, besides being a big-nosed liar who couldn't very well hurt a moth, let alone fight any real pirates? Face it, you're a lying, sniveling coward, the worst of the sorts. And the fact that you come here every day filling the young master with your inane ideas and stories truly makes me sick. If you had any self-respect for yourself, for your dying mother, for your dignity, you would cease this foolishness at once." Usopp would simply leave in protest, in anger, and even in shame. Kaya, of course, was sad to see her friend like this, as even if those things were true, she still chose to see the good in Usopp. She didn't want him to feel down on himself. As Usopp decided to reflect on his own, Luffy would catch up to him, the others still looking for supplies with Vulko and hopefully trying to find a new ship. However, before Luffy had a chance to catch up to him, Usopp would hear some concerning things. It happened when he went to the shore, where he often went to go and reflect by himself. He saw a band of pirates gathering together, among them a man named Django, and who he assumed to be Calidor. However, that was not his real name. He was actually the infamous Captain Kuro of the Black Cat Pirates. And this band of pirates really were planning an attack on the village in just a few days' time. They were going to kill Kaya, ransack the village, and take everything. Upon hearing this news, Usopp would try to tell everyone what was going to happen, even Kaya herself, but no one would believe him. And for Usopp, he wasn't surprised. While desperate, he knew the fact. He had gone around parading and showing himself off to be nothing more but an untrustworthy coward, so of course they wouldn't believe him. However, when he came across Luffy and his crew, they did take to heart the words he said, and they were able to see firsthand that he was telling the truth. But no one was going to help him. Seeing this, Usopp made sure that the younger members of his crew, the young children who didn't know any better, would despise and leave him. If worse came to worse, he didn't want them getting caught up in the crossfire of it all. However, seeing this, Luffy felt a sense of admiration for Usopp. The fact that even if all by himself, he was still willing to do the right thing. If that wasn't the sign of someone brave, then he didn't know what was. Volko agreed, but what were they going to do? They could wait for them to show up and ambush them, but even still, it would be best to take them out at the source. During the fall of night, Usopp would attempt to go to Kaya's one more time, hoping that he could convince her of the truth. However, as he made his way to her mansion and got inside, under the cover of night, Usopp would eventually make a horrifying discovery. Mary lying on the ground, bleeding. Usopp wasn't sure of what had happened, but then he heard it. You weren't supposed to be here to see that now, were you? Usopp slowly turned and saw. It was Captain Kuro. You did this! Captain Kuro revealed that he was wearing black gloves with long swords on the end of each finger. He moved cat-like as he appeared before Usopp, forcing Usopp to stumble back and fall to the ground. You know, it wasn't supposed to be like this. When I first came to this godforsaken island, everything was supposed to be simple. Just take the treasure and retire. That's all I ever wanted. You know how hard it is being a pirate? Truly, Usopp, do you know what it's like? Day in and day out, being hunted by marines, bounty hunters, every which way you go. For all the success that I had managed to accrue for myself, at what cost, at what rhyme or reason, it truly didn't matter. No, my life was filled with nothing but dread and horror each and every day. I got sick of it. I got tired of running. I got tired of it all. I just wanted to retire simply enough. Most people in this profession never get the chance to. But then I came across this island and I came across Kaya's family. Her folks. A shame what happened to them. But in the end, it's all for the greater good, wouldn't you say? All that mattered to me was getting my hands on that fortune. But then there was little Kaya. She just refused to go, no matter how much poison I dealt her. I don't know. Maybe it was those whimsical stories of yours that gave her the strength to keep on living. I had hoped at the very least I could give her a painless death, but now it seems you forced me to have to speed up the clock. Starting with you, of course. I will say, though, in honor of your friendship, I'll make sure that her death is quick and painless. One slice is all it'll take. I'll be able to cleave that pretty little head of hers off her shoulders, right through the neck. Calidor? From the top of the stairs in the mansion, Kaya had heard everything. No longer needing to put on the facade, Kuro would look up to the young girl and smile. Don't worry now, young miss. All of it will be over very, very soon. Yeah, I'm sure. Another voice could be heard as Luffy would appear between Kuro and Usopp, Triton already in hand. Ah, yes, the miscreant. This is no concern of yours. In fact, why don't you join me? You're obviously more capable and a lot more reasonable. You and I can work together. I can give you a small part of the fortune, enough for you and your people to get back on your feet and leave. After all, you have no connection to this village or its people. You have no reason to care. That's what you think? Luffy would smile, before a smile quickly faded and Kuro caught a right hook to the face, knocking him across the room. Usopp, get Kaya out of here and keep her safe no matter what. Right! Usopp quickly got on his feet and went to Kaya. The two of them went to leave the mansion immediately. Kuro, however, would use his quickness to get close to her. However, before he could get a chance, his claws would be stopped in an instant as he was caught by Luffy's trident, the two of them backing away from one another as they circled each other inside of the halls of the long and luxurious mansion. I see. So, you're a would-be pirate trying to play hero. Is that it? Play pirate? Play hero? There's no playing in the real world. It's either kill or be killed. Well, at least you're able to see reason on that. In the meantime, Usopp and Kaya would race through the forest as they tried their best to get as far away as they could. However, they would stop and hide behind a tree as a band of Kuro's men began making their way through. Remember, anyone we come across, we take them out. Men, women, children, it doesn't matter. Leave no one behind. The men would start to make their way. Kaya was worried for the people of the village. Usopp knew that he couldn't let them get past. After putting on his goggles, he could see that there was at least 7 of them. He would tell Kaya to stay in place, hiding her behind a couple of bushes. Don't worry, it'll be alright. Usopp climbed into the trees, waiting and taking his position. He watched as the men separated and moved into different spots. Using his slingshot one by one, he would take out each one of the would-be guards. They had no idea where the shooting was coming from, and they had no idea how to stop it. Usopp would use a few of what he called stars. They were the specially made ammo that he could use to take out some opponents. There was the sticky star, Tabasco star. There was the smoke powder, the garlic powder, all of which had their own ins and outs. He used a couple of cow traps as well. Prickly little things, and not good to step on. Kaya watched in awe as Usopp was able to take out each one of them in the dark. They had no idea where the sniper was possibly coming from, and they had no way to defend themselves, as they all eventually found themselves defeated by the likes of Usopp. As Usopp would move to Kaya's direction, taking her out so they could continue once more. She looked at him now, but in a much different light. Meanwhile, inside of the mansion, Kuro and Luffy would continue their battle. Kuro definitely had the edge in terms of speed, but Luffy was able to hold his own rather effectively. Kuro wasn't making any headway. He decided he would use his ultimate attack, known as the Shakushi, an attack that was the ultimate cutting move. It would slice and destroy anything within a certain radius of Kuro, irregardless of what was around him. I didn't want to destroy a lot of the stuff in this main room. It was very valuable, but it seems you've left me with no choice. Kuro would unleash his ultimate attack. Luffy, using his trident, would hack away and defend against each and every strike. When Kuro's attack finally came to an end, and he found himself at his limit, Luffy would strike with his own attack. Kuro had no way of defending himself. Luffy would gather all of the moisture in the air as he spun his trident around in front of him, creating a vortex of water. Now, of course, this attack was best used when fighting near a large body of water. and trying to pull a lot of moisture out of the air was a lot easier said than done. In the end, Luffy only had enough to muster up one strike, the Vortex Spear. But it was enough to get the job done, sending Kuro flying through 3 different walls before Luffy would race headway, just as Kuro got back to his feet, as Luffy delivered a series of devastating strikes. As Kuro landed on the ground, seeing that all of the claw swords had been broken, and Luffy held the trident to his throat, Kuro found himself unable to move. It's over. It seems so. So, you've beaten me. What now? Luffy wasn't sure. He hadn't really been one known for taking a life. It was just then that Vulko and the others would arrive. You made it. Yes. The guards and the other pirates near the shore, they were taken out swiftly. So, this is the famed Captain Kuro, Vulko would say as he knelt down beside him. So you defeated my crew. Then I have truly lost. They were all a bunch of good-for-nothings. I would have been better off just killing them myself alone. Before he could finish that statement, Luffy held the point end of his trident to his throat. Don't ever say something like that again. What's the matter? You're sentimental? Why? A crew is nothing more but a tool, no different than a gun or a sword or a map. They're a means to an end. I see. You're still naive. Naive as ever. That's what you are. You think it's going to be that simple, don't you? That everything will just go your way. No. I've seen young upstarts like you before. You go into the world all bright-eyed with all forms of hopes and dreams, only for them to come crashing down all around you. Trust me, boy. A day is going to come when your crew's not going to be as strong as you think it is, and you're going to watch them get decimated one by one, and you'll see just how useless and pointless a crew truly is. He wouldn't continue to prowl even further. Luffy made sure of it, knocking him out cold. The village had been saved, Kuro and his men soundly defeated, and swiftly taken out. All the same, what was to happen now? Well, after Mary recovered and Kaya was safely returned home, the two, being grateful to Usopp and to Luffy and his crew, decided to repay them the best way they knew how, as they had a ship made especially for them. It was brand new and could allow them to travel safely on their journeys. Luffy and the gang would be thankful for this, as Usopp was seeing them off. Of course, Luffy had wanted to ask, but now was as good a time as any. He asked Usopp if he wanted to come along. Of course, Usopp at first wanted to stay and look after his island, to look after his people. But his friends were all but enthusiastic for him to go, including Kaya. She assured him that they would meet again, and she hoped that she could hear more of his stories when he got back. With tears in his eyes, Usopp would pack his things. Catching them just in the nick of time, he would arrive to their ship. The people waving and sending them off with good cheers and with good lucks. as they set sail for the next part of their journey. From off in the distance, Usopp looked onto the hill where the mansion resided, Kaya sitting near the window, waving and smiling as she always had. Usopp yelled out that he would return. He would return as a brave warrior of the sea, and that he'd have a lot more stories to share with her. Kaya smiled, knowing that she could keep him to that promise, a promise she knew her friend would repay. And with that, Usopp had now joined the Straw Hat Pirates as they set sail through the East Blue once more. Their journey to the Grand Line lied just ahead. This concludes One Piece King of the Sea, What If Luffy Was Aquaman? Season 1, Part 3 of the East Blue Saga. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is Power Core Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue with Part 4 of What If Luffy Was Aquaman. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with Power Core Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.